What is up? Coach Emma here, and welcome back to the Fit Habit Life podcast, where we cut through the noise, talk real health and fitness, sustainable fat loss, and habits that actually work. And today I have a super special guest, Jamie Seltzer. Am I saying your name
You
right?
got it. You did
Okay,
well.
sweet. So Jamie has an incredible story, and that's why I wanted to bring him on the podcast. He went on Mind Pump, a podcast that I listen to and I recommend to most of my clients. So if you aren't listening, you should listen to it. But he lost, I think it's over 340 pounds now.
Yeah, 340 is where I've at so far.
That's crazy. But the right way.
Yeah.
So that's the craziest part is he did not do fad diets. He did not like drastically slash his calories. He just slowly started to change his habits. And so I just wanted to have him on to tell a story. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, Emma, thanks so much for having me. As you said, I was on my pump and it sort of opened up this world for me. I definitely encourage others to listen to it as well. I've learned a ton while walking. I mean, I walk and I lift and I listen to them. But anyway, yeah, and how I got on that show is I emailed a question saying, I've lost all this weight. I have all this loose skin. How do I work out with this skin? And next thing you know, I'm the first listener they've ever had on the show, and I'm in California, and they were the nicest guys, and their whole staff just absolutely fantastic. So definitely give them a listen for sure. In my case, so a bit about me. I'm from North Dakota originally. It's where I live now after living all over the world the last 15 years. But my highest weight was 652 pounds, which sounds crazy to even say out loud. And I got there through a variety of, I'll start next week, and Monday's the day I'm going to start. And it comes down to the fact that, my eating was poor and I have obesity, which is absolutely a disease, at least certainly it is in my case, and not a lack of willpower. And over the last 3 years, I've lost 340 pounds, and I've done it with a combination of GLP-1 medication and weightlifting. I lift weights 4 days a week, and I walk a ton. I walk at least 12,000 steps a day, 12 to 15,000 steps a day. And those things combined have completely changed my life. And now I'm telling my story because I realize that there are other people who have similar struggles as me and who think that they can't do it or they can't be successful. And I want them to know that they can. So I want to be an example for them. And I also want people to do as much resistance training, weightlifting as possible, because I've lost weight before not doing that, and it ended up hurting me in the end. And so I hope that by showing people me as an example, that will open the door to help me convince them that they need to lift some weights at the same time. But I very much appreciate you having me here, Emma. I've been listening to your podcast, and it's fantastic. And your
Thank
social
you.
media is great, and you're exactly the kind of coach that I hope other people out there can find. So thanks for doing what you do.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I just hearing your story and your ability to explain what you've gone through. I mean, like your mindset and everything. I just think people need to hear it. So wanted to just have you on and share it with my audience and my clients. I shared the Mind Pump episode with my clients, and everybody who listened was like, "Wow, this guy, he's super inspiring, and I need to start doing what he's doing." Because even if you don't have that much weight to lose, what you did is what most people need to do to change their body composition or improve their health. And I think mindset is often, I mean, now it's talked about more, but it was like really underrated for a really long time. And so, people will do the all or nothing thing and start again Monday mindset. But it's when you really dig down deep and you try to change how you think and how you approach things that you actually make those changes.
Absolutely. And it was interesting for me when I started this process, and I said I've started 3 years ago, the first year I didn't use any GLP-1. I just started moving a little bit more, eating a little better. I lost 50 pounds that first year, which is great.
Wow.
I mean, I stopped gaining because I gained so much weight during COVID. But going from 650 to 600 in a year is just not good enough, to be honest. I mean, it's better than going up, but health-wise, I was at that weight, I was on a path to an early death. I was 43, and there's no way that I was going to be 50 years old. Like I knew it wasn't going to happen, because I looked around and I didn't see anyone my size in their 50s or really even their 40s. And I knew that while my health, quote unquote, health was okay in terms of all my blood work and everything, it was just a matter of time, because I think at that size, or really any time you're probably carrying 50, 100 pounds or more, you are just a ticking time bomb of poor health. And while I think that everyone should be respected and loved and shown empathy regardless of their size, I don't subscribe to a belief that you can be healthy at any size. Yeah, you may be healthy at a certain size at a moment in time, but eventually it catches up with all of us. So I started GLP-1 medication 2 years ago, and that's when things really started to change for me. And I didn't start with mindset. Over the course of time, I sort of developed this mindset and these rules that I set rules for myself. And I've been following them ever since. And now I'm just constantly evangelizing these rules with people in my own life, like friends or family who, they always start by saying like, oh, I want to lose weight too. And the question is like, how many calories should I eat? Or how often should I work out? And the truth is that none of those things really matter unless you have the right mindset going into it. And I'm very, very grateful that I've developed a mindset that I think will sustain me the rest of my life, not just in health and fitness. The rules I have for myself, I think apply in all aspects of my life, not just losing weight.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Can you tell us those 4 rules? I re-listened to the podcast yesterday and I was like, wow, yep, everybody needs to live by these.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So really there's four rules that I follow, and it's not like I sat down one day and like, I'm going to come with 4 rules. That's not how it worked. I sort of was sitting down a few months back and just sort of thinking through this journey for me and like what changed in my life. And I realized that these are 4 things that I had just been doing. And I realized, wow, these are rules I've set for myself. And so I encourage everyone, as you go through, if you've had some success, you don't have to just copy the rules I have for myself. You can think about what changes have you made and what rules have you made for yourself that are sustainable. But the first one is definitely the most important, and it's actually the first one that I really made for myself, which is that you have to keep the promises that you make to yourself. I think we, as humans, we're all pretty good about making promises to people we love and then keeping them, because that's our word and we want to keep our promise. But we're not good about keeping the promises to ourselves, because we don't have to worry about disappointing anyone when we break a promise to ourselves. It's only ourselves. And I specifically set out to say that whatever promise I make to myself, I'm going to keep. And that started with, stuff as basic as walking a little bit more, getting my water, following my doctor's orders and advice. I got help from a dietitian and like, okay, what information can they give me? So I basically just started making these promises to myself, and I only made promises that I knew I could keep. I didn't make them really easy. I didn't say like, all right, I'm going to promise to drink 8 ounces of water a day. Obviously, that's easy to do. But when I made these promises, I set them up in a way that I knew I would succeed at them. I'd still work for them, but I'd be able to succeed. And once I started keeping promises to myself, it really changed everything. It changed how I viewed myself. It changed how I interacted with other people. It made it really easy to say no to some things, because if I say yes to this, I'm breaking a rule to myself. I said I was going to go to sleep at 10 o'clock tonight because I have an early lift tomorrow, and I have to say no to going out. Just basic little things like that. They feel like little, but when you look back over time, they're so important. So that's rule 1, and one I would encourage all your clients or all the listeners to do. And just start with 1 promise and make it like that is your word to yourself, and you are not going to break it no matter what.
Yeah, that's really fundamental when you're trying to make sustainable changes. Usually it's what I've noticed is clients don't have the confidence in themselves to follow through with what they commit to because they constantly break the promises that they make or the things that they say they're going to do. They prioritize other people's needs instead
Yeah.
of their own.
And my advice to that is if you make a promise to someone you love, you keep it because you love them. And if you make a promise to yourself, you should keep it because you love yourself. And the way you prove your love to those in your life is that you keep your promises to them. That's how you truly demonstrate your love. And it's not just words, it's the actions. And that's how you demonstrate love to yourself as well. It's not just telling yourself you love yourself, which you should do, but prove it. Prove it by making a promise and don't break it. And once that happens, set another one and another one. And next thing you know, you've lost 340 pounds and wondered, how did it happen? And this is how it happens, you know?
Yeah, I think most people should start looking at that. Like what are the things that I'm not doing for myself, and I'm not really taking care of myself. I'm not loving myself. I think like if you're trying to hate your body into shape, you're never gonna get there. So totally agree.
In your experience as a coach, when you have a client who has real problems keeping promises to themselves, what have you seen, or what do you think some of the common reasons for that are?
I think so. There's a awesome coach. His name's Jeb Stewart Johnson, and I went to a conference and he gave a talk about self sabotage, and I've been kind of using that with my clients because I've noticed it's safer to continue, or it feels safer to continue to do those bad habits than it is to try to change and fail.
Mm.
And so I think oftentimes a lot of self sabotage is just trying to keep things the same.
Fear of
And
change.
yeah,
Fear of change. I think you might be right on that. I think it certainly was in my case, and I'm sure it is in others. But yeah. And then the second rule, and I'll be honest, I stole this from the Mind Pump guys, which they called me out on when I was on their show. Uh, but it's a really important one, which is that consistency and discipline beat motivation. And the motivation is great. Like, I love feeling motivation. I love being motivated, but I just walked 7 miles, like literally immediately before we started recording this. And I was not motivated to go walk 7 miles today. I mean, I have the day off, and it was going to be I had a long time, and it's 70 degrees. I'm like, the weather's perfect. If there's ever a day to do this, it's today. But I really wanted to just hang out at home and watch some TV. But I made a promise to myself. I'm going to walk 12,000 steps today, and I know I won't have time tonight. And then two, I walk every day. That's what I do. And so I really encourage people to create, and this is really just comes down to creating habits, is, create sustainable habits that you know you can do, and then just do them whether you want to or not. And I mean, if you look at analogies, something like breathing is something you're not motivated to do, you just sort of do it. Brushing your teeth, I guarantee no one's like, brushing my teeth is my favorite part of the day. Like, you don't necessarily hate it, but you're not motivated to brush your teeth. You just do because you know the consequences of not doing that are bad. And we should look at all aspects of certainly our health that same way. Like, keeping control generally of what you're eating. So you're eating, in my case is, a metric ton of protein every day. But like ensuring that you are eating in a way that is sustainable and that you are moving your body, and just saying that this is what I do. And so like I said on Mind Pump, I lift weights 4 days a week, and I do it because that's what Jamie Selzler lifts weights 4 days a week. That's just the way it is. And I don't miss that. And if I do, it's because like a legitimate good reason, like you're sick or you're injured or or family obligation. But other than that, you shouldn't miss those things. And so use motivation can be like the turbocharger on a car. Consistency and discipline are the car moving, and the gasoline,
Yep.
and maybe the motivation is a little nitro to kick it up a bit every now and then. And if you view all of your habits that way and the things you have to do that way, you're much more likely to succeed. I think a huge mistake that people make when they're trying to lose weight, or I would say losing weight, but really it's about any sort of health goal. For some folks, that's gaining muscle, or it's increasing speed for a run, or whatever it is for you. I think a huge mistake that people often make in this process is that they're inspired at the start, and I think inspiration and motivation are different. They have inspiration at the start, and that leads to a little bit of motivation, and then when it runs out, they stop. They quit doing what they're doing. I've done that many times. I am the king of following motivation rather than discipline. I wish this is something I would have learned probably in my early 20s. I'm 46 now, and I kind of wonder if I would have learned early on that consistency and discipline beat motivation every time, then how different would things have been. And but the reality is that doing it now is just as good. So I encourage others to do the same.
Well, and you wouldn't be who you are today,
Yeah.
right? You wouldn't be able to share your story and impact like thousands of people's lives. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have probably been quite a bit of a different life, but I think like I struggled with health stuff and other things, and I think like even I wished I hadn't, but then also I'm like, well, that's why I'm able to coach people, or that's
Yeah.
why I'm in the position I am today, and um,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I have grateful. The feeling that I have more often than any other is gratitude. I feel
that's
gratitude all the time, and my gratitude actually starts with the 652-pound version of me, because he was the one. Me at that time had a really hard life. I mean, really difficult life. Movement was almost impossible. I got stuck on the toilet once. Like, I needed a walker to get around. I completely closed off from friends and family because, one, I didn't want people to see me, but two, I just couldn't go out. Like, for me to go out with anyone for any amount of time was a major, major thing just to get ready. I mean, I was the kind of guy, like, I'd break a sweat in the shower. Showering was cardio for me. And so um, everything was hard, including starting. I mean, getting started on this process and getting help. Because, I mean, the first year I didn't use any sort of medication. I just did it on my own, quote unquote. And it was a true daily struggle. And so, one, I have a lot of gratitude that I lived long enough to be able to solve this problem. I say solve, I'm still a work in progress, but we're all a work in progress.
yes, that is true.
So I have a lot of gratitude for myself, but I don't know if I were to go back, I don't know that I would actually change anything about my size. I mean, being healthier would have been great, but I've found through this process even in the last month, since Mind Pump came out, I mean, I'm getting hundreds of messages every week from people who are in similar shoes as mine, who I was the first person they've seen on a podcast with their story. And you wonder, like, why do certain things happen to you? And in my case, maybe I got to be that weight because it allows me, just like you talked about with your clients, it's allowing me to share a story that might impact someone else. And so I have so much gratitude, which makes me just feel joy in every moment of the day in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think people. So I I take a very holistic approach to health, and so like I'll have clients do a gratitude practice or journaling on top of the other nutrition and
Yeah.
exercise advice, and they're so resistant to it. But once they start doing it, they're like, "Wow! Like every day is a little bit better."
Yeah.
That's yeah, because you're being present and you're acknowledging the good things that you have going, you
Yeah.
know?
The thing is, it feels uncomfortable to do that type of thing. And I encourage people to do this all the time. And I've done this for the last 18 months. I do a daily self-reflection, and it's practice. You have to practice at it because it feels so weird at first. And I tell people, you have a conversation with yourself. And what I tell people to do is, and I do this every night before I go to sleep, like while I'm in bed, in those last few quiet moments, with just you are truly alone in your head. And I always do this. I encourage others to do it. Number one, think about what went well today. What wins did you have? What successes did you have? And like really acknowledge them and feel good about them. Number two, acknowledge what didn't go well today. Like what failed today? What mistakes did I make? Not to dwell on them, but to find out like, all right, what did I learn from these things? If there was a lesson, what can I apply in the future? And then move on. Third, think about what has to happen tomorrow for tomorrow to be a great day. That's one thing that has to happen, and then make a plan to do it. And then fourth, and to your point, I think the most important one is, what are you grateful for? Like really reflect on one thing or 10 things or whatever, comes into your mind, and just really, really focus on how grateful you feel to have that thing in your life. And I tell people, if you think that thought and you force every other thought in your head with practice, and that's when you close your eyes and you go to sleep, I promise you will wake up better rested. But beyond that, if you know you're going to spend time every night reflecting on what you're grateful for, you will naturally start to seek those things out in your life. And when you seek out moments of gratitude throughout the day, because you have to do it, because you're going to have a conversation with yourself that night, your life changes in every way. And that's the kind of thing I encourage people to do if they're trying to get healthy or stay healthy, is not get so focused, and we'll talk about goals, but not get so focused on stuff like a scale or stuff like how you look in the mirror, and just reflect on what you're grateful for. So every day I'm always grateful for something physical in my life, not appearance, but something I can do. Like I guarantee I'll be grateful at the end of the day that I walked 7 miles and didn't drop dead, which I would have probably a few years ago. So I'm grateful for that. Which actually leads to like the third rule I have, which is celebrating every win, every success.
That was my favorite rule.
Yeah, I think it is for many people. I mean, it sort of is for me too. And when I say celebrate every win or success, I mean literally every single one of them. And I started doing this right away when I began trying to get healthy and lose weight. And it does not matter how small the win or success is. I'm going to give you an example. Right before we hit record on this, I had to get up to turn off my air conditioner. And as I got up and went over there, in my head, I'm like, well, I just like hopped right out of that chair. Look at me just hopping out of a chair. And it seems small, but that's a win I would not have had 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And what I encourage people to do is literally write down those wins. I have my book here that's like full of notes. I have to count them up. I probably have 800 little wins written down.
Oh, wow.
And some of them are very big wins, like flying, in my case, flying without a seatbelt extender, or being on my pump are huge wins. Most of them, the vast majority of them, are very small. Like tonight, early on, I remember I wanted to order pizza one night. And I'm like, I don't really need to order pizza. I just had pizza a few days ago, so I'm not going to do it. That's a win. And I encourage people to write them down, because there's something about writing your successes down that imprints it into your head, and it makes it feel very real to you. That's one. And two, we all have bad days. I worry that when I talk, it sounds like all sunshine and rainbows. It's not. I still have bad days like everyone does. But when I do, the first thing I do is pull out my notebook and I start paging through hundreds of wins. And I tell you, there is no better way to get through a bad day than realize that it's just a single day, because you have proof in front of you of all your good days in the past. And that's why writing them down, and for me, that's on pen and paper. That's not even like in a notes app. I think pen and paper is where it's at. And I really encourage people to do that. And I'm really glad for you that it's one of your favorites. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Emma.
Oh.
What's a win or a success that you've had from the last day or two that you want to speak? Because I think you had to speak these out loud. Anything you want to speak out loud?
Um,
Other than
well,
hanging out with me right now, of course.
yeah,
I'll give you
well,
that one.
I
Yeah,
was
it's a
gonna
freebie.
say, having you on my podcast. Um, Let me see what happened yesterday, man. Oh, well, last night I did not want to go on my walk that
Okay.
I committed to, but I did it anyway.
There you go. And so you just spoke it out. So I can see in your face that you are proud of yourself because you did it anyway. I can just like see it in your eyes. And so that it's important to write those things down. We should all speak them out loud. I worry sometimes I annoy my friends and family because I'm constantly just telling them, "Hey, I just did this," and it sounds, it's something kind of silly that I would have said. I mean, last night I kept celebrating one win over and over. I went to this little outdoor little festival thing in my city where I live in North Dakota, and I like walked or stood. I didn't sit down for 4.5 hours, and
That's awesome.
I mean that would have been. I'm not exaggerating. At 650 pounds, I could not have stood for more than a minute or two without sitting down.
Wow.
And so when, I just like to speak them out loud, and I worry I annoy people, but I don't really care. Like, I'm not worried enough that I'm going to stop, because we should always take joy in our wins. So yeah, I really want the listeners to do the same thing. And again, it's one of those things where it takes practice.
Yep.
But get a little notebook and just think of the last week and write your wins down for the last week. And there you go. You have a head start already.
I definitely need to do that more. I'm like always thinking about the next thing, and I don't get very present with the current moment. So like I was a software engineer and I started this coaching thing, and I'll look back on where I was before, but at the beginning I was not even looking at the progress I was making. I was just comparing myself to where I wanted to go. And I was always unhappy because I wasn't there. Like the scale weight, you're not at your goal weight, right?
Yeah.
But once I started like looking back on the things that I had done from where I was a couple months ago, I'm like, whoa. So I definitely need to write them down.
I think
That's
it's a totally normal human thing to want the next best thing or the next milestone or the next whatever. And we see it in our health. We see it in the workplace. You naturally, I don't mean you, Emma, but you as a human, naturally, we look at what's broken, what's defective, and we want to fix it and move on. And we do typically, and it's great, but we usually don't stop to celebrate our wins. And I think about this as a leader, as a people leader. I've managed thousands of people over the years, and I'd like to think I was like pretty decent at it. But I realize the thing that I have failed the most often at is as a leader, I don't often enough stop and celebrate with the team, either with individuals or with the team. We always stop and say like, wow, this was a great accomplishment, congrats, well done. And it's sincere. But then it's always like, all right, what's next? What are we doing next? And it's okay to move on to what's next, but you should never do that by ignoring your wins or successes. And so I think about this in the gym when someone hits like a new PR. What's the first thought? Hey, I did it. What's the next thought? What's the next one going to be?
Yep.
And ultimately, that probably leads to more success in the end. But when you have those moments where you're not hitting that new PR or you're not getting that new number on the scale, if you've tied all of your positive emotion to what's coming up and not what has already been, then you're setting yourself up for some real disappointment and disaster.
Totally agree. I've been there for a lot of things.
Yeah. And then, which actually kind of naturally leads to the fourth rule that I have. I think this is actually the hardest one to do,
Yes.
which is input goals versus output goals. And so I define, when it comes to health and fitness, I define an output goal like the best example is the number on the scale. But the size of clothing is an output goal. Blood work, for if you go to a doctor and have tests run, that's an output goal. Basically, for me, an output goal is anything that you do not have direct control over. So you do not have direct control over the number on the scale. Unless you are an AI robot who can get in there and like program the little thing, you can't control it. You have indirect control, certainly. But I encourage people to not set goals based on outputs like that. It's fine to have an idea or a vision of where you want to end up, what do you want to look like, or generally what weight range is good for you. I think that's probably okay. But that shouldn't be the goal that you have every day. Instead, you should focus on input goals. In my case, when it comes to my health, my input goals are pretty basic. How often am I at the gym? How much weight am I lifting when I'm at the gym? So am I actually increasing my weights or not? How many steps am I getting a day? What am I eating? Specifically, how much protein and fiber am I getting? How much water am I drinking, which I'm failing on today, but how much water am I drinking? How much sleep am I getting? And I have direct control over all of those. I control all of those things. And so that's what all my goals are about. Because if I fail at something, at least I know like I failed because I failed. And I know exactly why I failed. And we have this culture, and it's a diet culture that ties a number on the scale to all sorts of things. Many of us, certainly me in the past, have tied our self-worth to the number on the scale. We tie our happiness to the number on the scale. I've lost 340 pounds now, and I've never had a goal weight. The closest thing I had to a goal weight was when I first started my doctor. I was about 650 at this point. My doctor said, "Where do you want to end up?" And I said, "I don't have a goal." And from the start, I didn't have a goal because in the past I always had goals. And when I didn't hit them, I was disappointed. Or if I even got close to it and I began to fail, I would be disappointed. I told myself, I guess if I get to 400 pounds, I'd be okay. Which seems crazy to some listeners, but when you're 650 pounds, 400 is like skinny. That's tiny.
A lot. Well, that's a third of your body weight or more.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's the closest thing I ever had to a goal weight. And I'm like 312 today. And I don't want to be a whole lot smaller than that, by the way. I like being a big dude. But anyway, so when you have your self-worth tied to a number on the scale, I wonder, and I've asked people when they say that what their goal weight is, if they're comfortable having the conversation, I will often ask them why that number. And so often it comes back because they've tied that number to a moment in time where they were happy. So that's the number I was in high school, or when I got married, or before I had my first kid, or whatever. And so they have this number, and in their head, they're like, I was really happy when I was that number. But I promise you this, you were not happy because of that number. That's not why you were happy. You were happy probably because you felt better and you were healthy and you felt good, not because you saw a number on the scale. Because if you didn't know what the number on the scale was, if a scale never existed and we blink it out of our minds, you still would have been happy at that time. So trying to chase a number on the scale and tying your happiness to it is going to set you up for either you don't get that number, because as we age and we get older and life gets in the way, it's just harder to sometimes get those numbers we had in the past. So either you're never going to get it and you're going to feel disappointed, or you may actually achieve that goal and realize, I'm still not happy, because that's not what your happiness is about. So I really encourage people to not invest too much emotion in the scale and to try to use it as data. Now, that's really easy for me to say to someone who's cared about the number in this. If I can't tell someone, hey, you're wrong for feeling this way when that number in the scale has mattered to you for the last 30 years or 10 years or whatever it is. I think the number is important. I weigh myself every single day, and I do that because I need the data and I need to see how my body reacts to various conditions. I stay the same weight or I gain weight 80% of the time. So 8 out of 10 days, it's quote unquote bad news on the scale for me. And if I tied my emotion to that number, it means that over the last 3 years, I would have been sad or upset 80% of the time. I've lost 340 pounds. Does it make any sense for someone in my situation to feel sadness 80% of the time over their weight. No, it's crazy. And so anyone who's listening to this, you may not have as much weight to lose as I am, but whatever that goal or number is for you, don't tie your emotion to it. So either somehow get your mind to just see it as data, or weigh yourself so infrequently that those peaks and valleys don't bother you. Get a scale that doesn't show you the weight, or only weigh at the doctor, or whatever works for you. And instead, change all of your goals to input goals, the things that you can control. And my advice on input goals is much like promises. You set a goal that is achievable, not easy, but achievable. And when you're able to achieve that goal over a certain amount of time, then you maybe want to increase it, like I did with my steps. When I started, I could only walk 1,000 steps. A year ago, I was at 8,000 steps. Now I'm at 12,000. I'm not going to increase my steps. This is the minimum that I do. At this point, getting 12,000 steps is a part-time job for a guy who sits at a desk all day. So yeah, at some point you have to be reasonable. So now my goal is just keep doing this. This is success. And so yeah, set goals that are achievable but not easy. That and if you fail the goal because it's too much of a stretch, that's okay. Just tweak the goal. You don't have to do all this stuff at once. Advice that this is just my own example. I did not set goals for all this stuff at once. I didn't set goals saying, all right, I'm going to live 4 days a week. I'm going to walk all these steps and I'm going to eat this much. I just started with one goal. And once I did that, then I started adding others with time. But yeah, sorry, I've been rambling for a while. I care a lot about this issue though, and it's the hardest thing to do. It's easy to say, it's hard to do.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I do with clients. And I think because people see all the stuff they have to do and they're like, wow, I'm never going to be able to do it, because it's usually a lot. Usually most people aren't doing most of the things, like the drinking water, the steps, the food, the strength training, all the stuff. But then if you peel it back and just think oh, you're walking 1,000 steps this week, how about try for 1,200?
Yep.
And then slowly over time, you're going to get to that goal.
Yeah.
Probably a lot faster than you thought, but not as quick as you probably want. But
it's never as fast as you want. But the goals can be very simple, easy things. Like one of my goals is that I will always try to make things a little bit more difficult for myself if I can. So one really it's a silly goal, but I tell you, it's a meaningful goal to me. Is if I go to anywhere like a store or whatever where there's a automatic door, and then on the side, there's a door with a handle. I always go to the door with the handle. And in my head, as I do it, I'm doing a little lift right here. I got some resistance training in pushing or pulling this door. But it's usually an extra 20 steps to get over there. And it's a tiny bit more difficult than going through the automatic door. But that has sort of reprogrammed my brain to realize that I should not always take the easy way. Because for so many years of my life, I was taking the easy way. Perfect example. I have worked out in the past, and I promise you, people listening to me do this exact same thing. You go to the gym and you look for the closest spot to the door at the gym. You are about to go into a gym and work out and get your fitness on, but you drive around a little bit looking for the closest spot rather than just take the first one you see, or the one that's further back. I see it at the gym. I see people doing it. And there's these little tiny things you can do that just add a little friction to your life that are good for you physically, sure, in a very minimal amount. It's not like me going and pushing a door is actually making me any stronger. But mentally, it's giving me some fortitude that I don't always have to take the easy route. And that's a goal of mine. It's just to never take the easiest method to do anything unless I absolutely have to.
And I think that's great. I think if people framed it that way, it would help a lot with a lot of other things too in life. It's oh, I can do hard things. I choose to do hard things all the time. So this little life stressor, it's not a big deal. I'll be fine.
Yeah, and it is a choice. Those things are choices. So, that's one of my goals that I have, and it's an input goal. And so the input goals don't just have to be big, what are you going to eat or how much you're going to lift. They can be small things as well.
Yeah, definitely. I like the park far away thing. I think that's so underrated. Like, and then you don't have to deal with crazy drivers
Yeah,
as you're, you know,
that's going to
trying
in
to.
your car. In my case, it's interesting. For so many years, I mean, if I were to go to a store like that, I would just keep circling till I found the closest spot.
Wow.
In the time that I would look for a spot sometimes, I could have parked it in the back of the parking lot and gone in and done whatever I had to do and then gone back out to my car. Um, but now, because my body, and I've said this a few times, my body really was a prison. I was trapped in a prison of fat and shame, and uh, I was stuck there, and I couldn't get my body to do anything I really wanted it to. And so now, whenever I have an opportunity to test myself a little bit, I do it. So it is so hard to describe how, to this day, weird it feels to me when I intentionally park at the furthest spot away. And I don't do it because this is going to get me extra steps. I do it because I couldn't do it before. And I think it's important, if you've had any sort of success in this stuff, to never kind of like rest on your laurels and feel like, hey, look at me, I've done so great, whatever. So I do stuff like that to remind myself of what I couldn't do before, which helps keep me consistent and keeps me on track. Um, but it's I don't know, all these things are life changing, and and anyone can do them. I mean, these rules I've talked about. I mean, anyone can do them. Not that they're easy necessarily, but they're doable for everybody.
Yes, and like you said, start small. Like maybe you just pick one of the rules.
Yeah,
And maybe it's just like you said, going to the not automatic door to the one that you have to like push open.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be a big thing, but as you keep showing up for yourself, you'll notice you'll probably feel a lot better and you'll probably want to make more changes
yeah.
like that.
And it improves, just proves your mental health as you go.
Yeah.
Accomplishing your goals and keeping your promises does something for you in your head and your heart and your soul that nothing else does. So that's probably been the biggest change for me throughout this process. Is you realize as you're doing these things, there's real power in especially keeping promises to yourself.
Definitely. So, how did you decide to make a change? What was the catalyst?
It was really a few things. So one, and I started talking about how I knew I wasn't going to live a whole lot longer, but that to me wasn't even actually the worst thing. It was, let's say I had 5 years left. I knew they were going to be the 5 worst years of my entire life. My mobility was so bad. I I couldn't walk more than 20 or 30 feet. Um, I officiated my sister's wedding. It was on a beach in Florida. And most people would love the idea of like a wedding on the beach and beautiful day. And for me, it was a nightmare because walking on that sand, especially this is the panhandle sand, which is very, very like fluffy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Walking on the sand was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done physically. I sort of joke now, people are like, wow, you're working so hard in the gym. I'm like, no, there is nothing I do in the gym at all that even compares to an average 5 minutes of my life when I was 652 pounds. Like, stuff was way harder for me at that point than it is now. I mean, the 7 mile hike I did now was nothing. That was infinitely easier than walking 3 blocks when I was 600 plus pounds. So, but I was on the beach and I actually fell at one point, and we were taking a group picture and I stepped back, lost my footing, hit the ground. I ended up hurting my knee pretty badly. I didn't realize that at the time, but I didn't obviously hit my head or, whatever, because it's sand. But I was stuck on the ground and I immediately knew I couldn't get up. 650 pounds, I was stuck. And there were about 20 people at my sister's wedding. And they were all lined up because we were taking a picture. And I started laughing at first because it's funny. If someone falls on the beach, they're not hurt. It's sort of funny. But, it's not like we were alone. There were people all around us just at the beach for the day. And I became immediately terrified that someone was going to pull out their cell phone and record me stuck on the beach. And we've all seen memes. And after that moment, my empathy for people who become memes against their will has changed significantly. I used to share a lot of those or laugh at them or think they were funny. And all of a sudden, I'm in a situation where all it's going to take is one person pulling their phone out, and I'm going to be the beached whale who can't get up. And so while that's happening, I'm thinking, do we need like lifeguards? Do we need fire rescue to come get me up? Like, I'm so big. And I was laughing to counter how I was terrified at the moment. And I was so grateful. My new brother-in-law, one of his best friends, came, who's like in his 50s, walked, and I talked to him before the wedding. Came up to me and he's like, I'll get you up. And I'm like, I'm 600 plus pounds. You can't get me up. And he literally put his arm around me and like pulled me right up. And it turns out he's an amateur power lifter. He's competed all over the world in powerlifting and in bench press. And I don't know how much he benches, but it's enough that he like wins international competitions. And he got me up, and I was so grateful. I was only on the ground for maybe a minute, and no video. I never became a viral meme. I was very grateful for that. But you know, the next day I flew back, and I flew through the two of the largest airports in the country, and it was just 2 days of my physical pain and emotional pain. And I got back home, and it was not long after that you know, using the bathroom in the morning, I couldn't get up off the toilet. I was just too weak to do it. And I didn't have my phone with me, and I remember just thinking, like, this is so bad. I didn't think I was going to, like, die at that moment, because I figured worst case, I would just, like, throw myself on the ground and, like, crawl somewhere. But I was thinking, like, this is, like, this could be how I die, something like this, where I get stuck somewhere, and I can't get help. And right around that time, I became obsessed with thinking about what will happen to me at that point. Like, I think about my knee was hurt. Do I have to go? Well, I have to go in a nursing home at 43 years old. I thought about, what if I do die? What if I die in my sleep or have a heart attack or whatever? Like, you realize that you are in a new level of despair or badness when you are Googling what happens to 600 plus pound bodies. How do you cremate them? Can they bury them? Thinking like, how are they going to get me out? Like, you know, and there's not a lot of Google results for this kind of stuff. And so I wasn't getting a lot of answers. I was just sort of terrified. And then I had to get a walker to get around. So here I am, a 43-year-old man who's been successful in a career and in business, and I've been successful in a political career, and like, here I am, stuck on a toilet, needing a walker, Googling what happens to you if you're 600 pounds. Do they have to cut you up before they cremate you? Like, and I sort of like said, this has to end. Like, I have to fix this. And I realized, you know what? I may not actually do this. I may not accomplish this. And I may still die early, but I'm going to at least die trying. And I'm going to do whatever I can to be successful here. And that's when I started to change. But it takes a long time. You know, I think the most difficult part of this whole struggle that I went through is realizing, and now, you know, this journey or process, whatever you want to call it, is realizing that it's going to take a very long time. I sort of accepted, like anyone, they want, and we talked about this earlier, you want fast results. When I realized and accepted that for me, this is going to be a 5-year process, 5 years to lose the weight. I knew I would have skin, and I knew I'd have to have plastic surgery, which I have not had yet, but so I'm still in this process. And I would have to have plastic surgery, and I'd have to recover from that. I knew this is going to be a 5-year thing. But at the end of that 5 years, I knew I would be in a much healthier situation. And if I didn't start this, I knew that in 5 years I would probably be dead. So those were the only two options for me. And people say, like, what inspired you or motivated you? Well, it was either going to be, I am moving and healthy and happy and feeling great, or I'm dead. There was no middle ground. There was no status quo for me. It was one of those two. So once I realized that, it made it a lot easier, knowing it was going to take a long time.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize that it does take a long time. I mean, you're a very special case, right? But like some people, it's like maybe 50 pounds,
Yeah.
and that's not going to happen in a month or two. It's probably going to take a year to a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I mean, I think coming to terms with that, that's probably what helped you. Well, like, as you said, that's what helped you get to where you are now because you realize like it's going to take time, but what other option do I have?
It does. And I mean, probably the biggest mindset shift that I had in this entire time, and I said this on Mind Pump, but when I said it on Mind Pump, I had never thought this out loud before or even in my head. I've never spoken this before. It literally came to me in the moment. Um, Literally in that moment, it came to me where I realized like it's not about the outcome at all. I'm not even talking outcome goal. Um, we often, and I'm the most guilty person of this in the whole world. I always thought that eating better and working out and the things you're supposed to do, and we say all the things when we all know what we're talking about. I used to think that you had to do that stuff, and once you did that stuff, you would have the better life at the end. You would have the weight loss, you'd have the whatever it is that anyone who's listening is looking for. And probably a year or two into the process, I realized, but didn't speak until recently, didn't even realize it in my head, that those things that you're supposed to do to have a better life, those are the better life. And wow, is that such an amazing feeling when you get that you're not doing the stuff to get to a location, like you're in the location, like you're at the destination. And that's why I get ecstatic now when I am forced to walk extra, or my trainer forces me to add 5 more pounds when I don't want to, or I am at a place where they don't have any terrible options for food and I'm forced to eat something healthy. I don't view any of that stuff as being forced anymore. That stuff is now a privilege, and that's what it's all about. And it's a life-changing type of mindset, and one I didn't start verbalizing until recently. But it's one I really wish everyone would look at doing, or at least trying to adopt in some way. Just changing how
Yeah.
you view all this stuff sure makes it a lot easier to do.
Yeah, it's like Sal says, the man who loves to walk will walk further than the person who's just trying to get to the destination.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so true. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to say it all the time, but I'm going to pretend that I said it instead.
Go for it. So you said that first year you did it on your own. What made you decide to get help? Go try the GLP-1, go reach out to a trainer.
Um, a few years ago, so 3 years ago, I was on an airplane and next to a woman who told me she was a doctor. So this would have been, no, it's been 4 years ago. It's been early 2021. And she said that these medications were coming out. We got talking about my size because I felt bad and I apologized for infringing on her space. She's very nice. And she told me all these medications coming out that rivaled bariatric surgery. And I never considered having bariatric surgery because that to me felt like cheating or taking the easy way or whatever. Like even though I was probably the most prime candidate for it. I was also scared about things like, anesthesia and all that. I will tell you this. If I knew that after I lost weight, I'd feel better, like, that logically, I don't have the words to describe how much better I feel. I'm 46. I feel like I'm in my 20s. I could not conceive of how much better I would feel. And if I had known that I'd feel this much better, I would have had a bariatric surgery 15 years ago when it was an option. So I don't have any regrets, but if I would have just if I could have fast forwarded to even 30 seconds of my life now, I'd be like, all right, let me get under the knife as fast as I possibly can. Because I tried other things that weren't working. Anyway, so I didn't use the GLP-1 for the same reason, which is I thought I can do this by myself. But after that first year, it was so hard. If anyone doesn't know what food noise is or what that's like, it's just constantly obsessing about food all the time. And then ultimately it will often lead to binging eventually. And I had that for years. And I honestly thought it was normal. I thought that everyone was thinking about food all the time. once I started GLP-1, that's one of the first things that goes away is that type of food noise. And when that went away, it was eye-opening because I realized that apparently this is not normal, what I'm thinking. It's not normal to be having, dinner on a Wednesday night and wondering, what am I going to binge on Saturday? And that's not a normal thing to have. And once I realized that and took the food noise away, all of a sudden I could make significantly better choices. All the things that you're supposed to do, which is why I encourage people, if you've never had a weight problem, please have empathy for people who do, because I tell you, I knew more about how to lose weight than anyone. And I knew that I had to eat less. I knew I had to move more. All those things, like everyone who's really big knows that stuff. They may not know like all the specifics or the best ways, but they know that's what you're supposed to do. But you have this noise in your head that stops you from doing it, or you have insulin resistance, or you have metabolic syndrome. You have like something going on physically. And these medications truly change that. But they're a tool that, there's a podcaster I really love named Dave Knapp, who I'd encourage you to have on your show at some point, who's an expert in this space. And it's a tool that levels the metabolic playing field. And once that playing field is leveled, it's up to you to use the tool correctly, which is what I do, and what's why I'm talking to you now, and on TikTok and on Instagram and on Facebook and stuff that I was never going to talk about this stuff, like ever. And I'm talking about it because I want people to use these medications the right way. And so once I started, so that first year I lost 50 pounds, and I was like walking more, I was eating a little bit better, but it was like a white knuckle fight every day. And I knew that I knew a certainty that I was going to gain the weight back. Like even while I was well in the process, because every day I felt like I was going to war every day, but I was going to war with my own body. And when you are at war with your own body, that is not a fun place to be, because you can never escape it. There's no running from it. So that's why I started GLP-1. And it took a few months for it to start working for me. I needed higher doses, but it's worked well for me ever since. I mean, I've lost 290 pounds in the last 2 years. And I've actually lost more the third year than in the second year.
Really?
Because of resistance training. I
Right.
have, this is not to say this is a flex, because once you've been 652 pounds, you really don't have the right to flex on anything anymore. But because of resistance training and the fact I eat 250 to 300 grams of protein a day, I am still in a body recomp mode where I'm still adding muscle, even though I'm at a 2,500 calorie deficit every day. But when I do DEXA and in-body scans, I'm still adding muscle. And it's allowed my metabolism to be like a furnace. I've gone to the doctor twice over the course of 3 weeks just to test the whatever's called the calorimeter or whatever, so my resting metabolic rate's 3,900 calories a day before I do any sort of activity. If you're listening, you should see Emma's face right now. She's shocked. It is shocking to me, because I wonder how it is that I'm eating so much that I'm still losing 2 pounds a week. And it's because muscle. So when I do this, I'm just constantly adding muscle, certainly keeping the muscle that I've had. And I'm very grateful that I started resistance training very, very early in this process. It's really saved me throughout this. And so, so that's my flex, is that I'm still in a significant calorie deficit, and I'll probably lose another 40 pounds and then stop. So I have to have skin removal surgery, because I'm just like a deflated balloon to some extent, which I'm okay with mentally. Unless you're my insurance company, I'm terribly disappointed in it. But the skin is actually a problem. It's affecting my lifting. It's affecting my movement. It's causing back pain and knee pain.
Oh man,
And
really?
so I have to have it taken care of. So I'm probably lose another 40 pounds. But by doing resistance training, I've set myself up for success in the future. I cannot believe I'm a 46-year-old man. I don't have to use TRT, and just doing very well on all this muscle stuff.
That's awesome. So how did you decide to do resistance training? Because like we talked about before, most people, they just gravitate towards cardio because you just hop on a machine
Yeah.
and get.
It's because I couldn't do cardio. Like I could barely move or walk. So the idea of like even walking from my car into the gym was difficult enough. The idea of doing that and then going on a treadmill was just foreign to me. Now, people say that all the walking I do is cardio, and it is. It's exercise. It's good for your But when I say cardio, I'm talking like exerting yourself to a point where your heart rate spikes and you're like breaking a sweat. I've lost 240 pounds and I've broken a sweat maybe 5 times in that whole process. And
That's
it's
crazy.
never from cardio. It's usually from deadlifting. That's what will do it to me, or squatting. And so I just avoid all that cardio. And, I've had tests run on my heart. I've done like stress test and all that. And I'm good. My cardiovascular system is very healthy. The walking certainly helps. The weight loss has helped. But I started resistance training because I could do it. I could sit and do cable rows. I could do bicep curls. Maybe not a lot of weight at the beginning, but it was way easier for me to do that than to hop on a machine. And I've stuck with it. And during that process, I started listening to podcasts. I started, following certain people online, and they were all, it's people like the Mind Pump guys. It's, other podcasters I love are like Docs Who Lift, the Nadolsky brothers, or Mike Israetel from RP. Like, these guys are all about the weightlifting. And when I realized that you could actually lose fat by weightlifting, like, what? Why did no one tell me this magic years ago? I always thought I had to do cardio. I did the weightlifting in the past a little bit just for fun. I didn't do it because I thought I was going to lose weight. And now I know that if I get on a bike for an hour, I'm burning fat for that hour. But if I lift weights for an hour, I'm burning fat for 24 hours. Like, what an efficient, fantastic way to get healthy. So that's why I've been doing it the whole time and encourage everyone else to do it. Plus, it's fun. It's fun to challenge yourself,
It
to
is.
get that extra rep out of you, or those extra few pounds. It also, like doing a deload week is like the greatest, feels like a vacation now. And it feels fantastic to do some deloads every now and then because it just feels so easy. And it's good for you as well. So like there's all these things tied to weightlifting that are good for your mental health in addition to physical.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's awesome. I'm glad that you gravitated towards it because you'd probably be in a different position if you hadn't, found strength
There's
training.
a good chance, and I maybe not at this point, but certainly my first year or two on GLP-1, where if I had not done any exercise at all, I would have lost more weight, I think.
Mm,
Because the exercise was never really getting me a lot of extra calories burned. As we know, it's, it's your NEAT and it's what you're eating that really matters. And the exercise is marginal. That's the 10% on the end. It's an important 10%, but it's not what did it say? You can't like outwork a bad diet or whatever. So because I had been lifting, when I started lifting, I gained weight right away because of inflammation and used creatine and all that. Yeah, if I had never exercised, I probably would have lost more weight that first year. Ultimately, though, it would have set me up for failure because I would have lost a huge amount of muscle. My metabolic rate would have gone way down. And now I would, instead of, being in a huge calorie deficit, I would probably be at my maintenance and not able to lose anymore. Which is why resistance training is important for everyone. I'm a huge believer, and at this point, I'm like, should I become a personal trainer, like just to tell people, like, you can do this, you have to do this? But it's especially important for people who are actively trying to lose weight. If you are trying to lose fat, you have to do resistance training. There is no other way to do it. In my case, I needed GLP-1. I would not have done this without GLP-1. I would not have been nearly as successful without resistance training. I encourage everyone to do it and get a coach if you have to. I have a coach who's been great. I'm not nice to my coach. I'm not a fun client to have, I'm sure. I don't need a coach to motivate me. I have that. I can do fine on my own. I need a coach to, push me a little bit. But those on GLP-1 are often people who have obesity or have gotten overweight and have never worked out, have never done those things, and it's scary. So if that's you, because you found this podcast, because you searched for GLP-1 or weight loss, or I popped up in some, algorithm for you. Please use me as an example that resistance training, even using your own body at home, or resistance bands, or the adjustable dumbbells next to me right here, like just adding those things means you don't have to go to a gym. You can work out from home. There are online coaches that you can get. Like, you can do all sorts of things, but you have to listen to these. You have to. You have to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's becoming more commonplace, which is awesome, but there's still like a lot of people are resistant, no pun intended, to get started. And I think that's great. Yeah, you can do it at home. So I think some people going to a gym, it can be really overwhelming. Can be, I mean, gyms are well, maybe not all the big boxes, but gyms are some of the most welcoming places.
Very inclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've advised people to go to a gym. They think that they're getting stared at. I'm like, no, the vast majority of people at gyms, they're really only focused on themselves.
Yep.
If they see you, they're happy for you. They're like, hey, look at that person getting after it. But when you were very big, when you have a lot of obesity, you are judged constantly. People judge you all. I mean, I used to get people taking pictures of me. I used to get people staring at me. I would, I'd walk by someone and I'd see them like nudge the person next to him and point at me. Like, that was a common thing in my life. And so you tend to think, I mean, I have said the statement that I was a mind reader, that whenever anyone met me, I could read their mind. I knew what they thought, because the first thing they thought is like, oh my God, look how big this guy is. This guy is so fat. This guy's huge, whatever. Like, I knew that's what they were thinking, but I'm not angry at people for that. That's a human thing to do, that you notice the physical thing first. Now I don't know what they think, which is sort of amazing to me, that I don't know what people think when they see me anymore. But I just assume they think I'm sexy as hell at this point. But when you go through your life like that, you assume that a gym where the people who are the most fit are, the healthiest are, that it'll be the most judgmental. And it really is the opposite. So I encourage people to get into the gym if you can. It's really it's the place with the most equipment. It's the best thing to do. But there's so many things you can do from home as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking the hour and change to share your story. So what do you want to leave our listeners with?
What I want to leave them with is probably two things. One, if you do not have a weight issue or have never had a problem with obesity, please have some empathy and compassion and love and respect for those who do. I promise you that they don't want to be like that. And if they could, flip a switch and fix it, they would. Sometimes what they really need is like some kind eyes or a hug or someone to say, I know you can do this. And be that person for someone, rather than be someone who looks at them with disdain or judgment, which they get all the time. And second, for you, if you are listening to me, if you're someone who maybe you're not 650 pounds like me, but someone who you know that you have some weight to lose to get healthy, please have some grace for yourself and forgive yourself. It's very easy for those of us with this problem to be angry at ourselves, to disrespect ourselves, to feel unworthy, and to feel a lot of regret. But if you try to tackle this and go into a future being healthier, but are stuck on being mad at yourself for getting to this point in the first place, it's likely going to cause you to fail. Instead, just forgive yourself and say, I did the best I could in the conditions I was in, with the information I had, with whatever life was throwing me at the time. And I love myself for getting to this point, but today is when I start. Not tomorrow, not next week, or next month, or January 1st. Literally today is the day you can start. Right after you listen to this, you can go for a walk, or you can drink a glass of water. You can do something. So forgiving yourself, giving grace to yourself, and acknowledging that the absolute best way to love yourself is to put yourself in a situation where you will be healthier. Being healthier means that you get to move more, and moving more means that you get to enjoy and experience life in a way you haven't before. So that's what I would leave you with. you're in my shoes or anywhere close to my shoes.
That's a great way to end the podcast. So where can our listeners find you?
I unbelievably do social media stuff about fitness now, which if you would have said, "Hey, Jamie, what are 1,000 jobs that are likely that you'll do one day?" Not this is a job, but 1,000 things you're likely to do one day. Like fitness creator or influencer, or whatever, not on the list. But here we are. So I'm on TikTok, so you can find me on TikTok at JamSelz. That's JAMSELZ. Or on Instagram at jselzler, JSELZLER. On both, you can just search my name, Jamie Selzler, and I'll come up in both cases. Or on Facebook, you can find me. So come find me, come hang out. I post about stuff like mindset, and I like to do at-home workouts with people. So I'll go live and we'll work out together, and we can lift weights together from home. But yeah, you can find me there on any of the social medias, just searching my name. And if you're hearing this and you need help or don't know where to start or don't know what to ask your doctor or your insurance company about GLP-1, then reach out. I'm happy to help you out, or just look at my posts. I post about that stuff as well. But I'd love to hear from people, and thank you, Emma, very much for having me. This is an awesome conversation. I can tell that you're a great coach. I can tell that you actually deeply care about this stuff. And this isn't just a way for you to make money, because honestly, you probably could make way more money in software engineering or design than you could doing this. But the fact that you're doing this really speaks volumes to who you are as a person. So I very much appreciate you having me here, and best of luck to you and all the listeners.
Thank you so much. And I will tag all of those links in the show notes so you guys can reach out to Jamie. You don't have to go Google them. They'll just be right there. And anyway, if this resonated with you guys, please share it. If you know someone who's struggling with similar things, share it with them. Just help spread the word that there are things that you can start doing, and you can make changes. So anyway, on that note, thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.